Okay, I guess it's time to get started here. First of all, thank you to everybody for joining the webinar here. We have part one. We're going to do two parts to this. We're going to do a Publisher 3D introduction, and then in a couple weeks we're going to do a Pages 3D introduction. We kept them separate because they're two different products doing two different activities. So how this will work is through the web there, you should have a webinar link. You should be able to see the presentation at this point. If you're having trouble with that, put the questions in there in the question box. And that's another thing. The question box is there for you to ask any question that you have along the way. What we'll probably do is at the end of the presentation, I'll review some of the questions and answer any of them that make sense to answer at this point, and if not, I'll get back with you offline and answer those questions directly. So I guess it's we'll get started here. Okay, QuadraSpace is about taking 3D, your SolidWorks files, your Pro E files, Inventor, what have you, and generating illustrations, animations, and documents from those. Today's product is Publisher3D, so we'll be really focused on illustrations and animations today. How this is done is the 3D information is input into our product, Publisher3D, and it is used directly, and that is able to be leveraged without a CAD seat in allowing an author to generate illustrations complete with balloons and callouts and animations. There are a lot of different uses through the manufacturing area for this type of activity, starting with technical illustrations, different marketing images, animations, graphics for your service and support, graphics for engineering activities such as patents or other engineering design side things. As far as the difference goes, QuadraSpace is an affordable, off-the-shelf software. It's very easy to install and use. It's you'll see as we go through the demo here in just a second that it has a ribbon interface, so it's very familiar to many people at this time. And it includes all of the capabilities that you would need in order to create illustrations and animations. That means that by importing your 3D model directly, you can rapidly generate a set of illustrations or a storyboard of an animation and then publish that. And this product includes multi-publishing capabilities, so you're going to be able to take that same set of images and publish those as not only images but as the animations. And then I can show you a couple other things like how to publish those to Word from this product or to that interactive 3D PDF. So here's the basics of the product we're going to cover today, and then we'll jump straight into a demonstration of this product. And like I said, the whole goal of using this product is to create and capture views of your 3D model. Then you can add markups and balloons to each of those views. And then each of those views, which we call illustrations, those are organized into a storyboard. And the storyboard has a couple of uses. One is just organizing a set of illustrations that you're going to publish or grouping them. And the second is to create an animation or a timeline for that animation. And we'll go through both of those activities of using the storyboard. The product also includes a wide assortment of 3D tools, starting with exploded views and balloons, render styles, material editing, sectioning, all kinds of tools that you're going to need in order to result in your final documents and your final images and illustrations. And like I mentioned earlier, it's not just for one activity. You can you can publish to different outputs from this product. So you can do all your illustration creation. All the work that you put into that can be leveraged in multiple ways in different outputs. And the product is very affordable. The standard edition of our product starts at $6.99, so it's very easy to get up and running, not only from an ease of use standpoint, but from a affordability standpoint as well. So I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to bring up the application here, and then we'll go through it. Okay, what you should see now is the start screen, or the quick start splash area for the Publisher3D product. The computer's popping up some things here. The Windows is trying to update everything. Okay, here we go. The first thing that you will do with Publisher3D is you will import your 3D model. So let's go ahead and import a model. And we have a SolidWorks design we're going to work with today. And I believe it is this one. And there are multiple different file formats that you can bring in, starting with SolidWorks, Inventor, Pro-E, IGES, Step, OBJ. There's a list of those that I can provide for you too, that has the complete listing. But there should be a format that will bring in yours, if not directly, then through a simple interchange. Okay, so let's hit open. And what this will do is bring in the solid assembly. I don't have SolidWorks on my computer, so it'll bring it in without having to have a CAD seat on the computer that you are working with. And we now have a view of our 3D model in the product here. And before I get really going into this, I want to just kind of discuss how the product is organized. It starts with an Illustrate ribbon. The Illustrate ribbon is where you'll spend a lot of time working, because really your goal is to create illustrations from this area here and then organize them with the storyboard here. The 3D View ribbon allows you to set the style of the scene. So for example, I can pick a shaded with edges look. I can change my background, and I can set all the different properties of how the 3D scene is rendered. We can also save those off into your own library of name styles, or you can save them to one of these quick 1, 2, 3 buttons, which will make it very easy to get a consistent look and feel throughout all your documentation when you always want to use one of the 3 preset setup render styles. The next ribbon is a material editing ribbon. This allows you to edit the materials in the model. Under the Applied button here, this shows me all the materials that were imported with this model. And then there's a stock library that comes with these. So you have all kinds of different paints and plastics, rubbers, metals, all kinds of things that can be applied by simply picking paint, picking a style like this blue, and then you can just use the Apply button to click that and apply that to your model. So let's do just a quick plastic here of some kind. Let's make a kind of a black base that looks like that, and then you can just apply that to your scene there. You can also fully edit any of the materials. So if you don't like the way that looks, then you can tweak that out to your own style with different bump maps or textures or what have you there. I actually don't really like that black that I applied, so I'm just going to do an undo. Model. The model ribbon allows you to create exploded views and to work with parts lists, both of which we'll do during the demo today. And then the configuration ribbon here is an advanced but very important ribbon. We'll talk about this a little bit, but this is going to be in our advanced topics webinar that will be in the future. But what a configuration allows you to do is to create subsets of your model and manage large models by creating, I'll say the circuit board, for example, is something you wanted to create a configuration from. And then when you're working with that, you're only working with the circuit board and you're not distracted by all the other components during that process of your illustration creation. And then we have some various tools. And then under Publish, this is the final step. You would go through and pick what you're going to publish to and publish it now. So let's do a few examples here. Let's go back to our Illustrate ribbon here. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the storyboard just so you get a good feeling of how everything's working here. And then we'll just immediately create a new illustration. We'll just hit New, and we'll give it a name. For example, Overview. Here's the main picture of our scene. And when I hit OK, you'll notice that the first thing it does is it creates a thumbnail here, because this is now a named view. and we go into this editing mode. So we're now in an orange box around us, which means as I rotate and pan and zoom my model, I'm getting updates on the thumbnail down here, which is going to be used to recall this later. So some of the ways that you can orient the model, there's this viewpoint panel. I can click this extended group properties button here, brings up my viewpoint panel. And from here we have the standards, like your isometrics. But there's also a whole library of axonometric views here. So I have different dimetric views to select, different trimetrics. All of these are industry standards, and all of them have the very crisp, straight up and down lines built into them. And not only can you just take and look at it from a normal view, you can use any of these 8 viewpoints to orient the model precisely. The other thing you may want to do when setting up your illustration is to change the render style. So we may want to work with things like a lot of people use hidden lines removed. We'll actually do a second illustration with that one. Shaded with edges is really popular. You can also bring up an extended editor here too. And then from here we can change anything, like what color are the selected objects, what color is the background. You can apply a gradient background. A lot of people like to do boundary edges that are thicker than the crease edges, which gives you a 2-pixel, a 2-point line on the boundaries and a 1 point on the creases, for example. Lots of different things you can do here, adjusting lighting, trails. Let's turn on our trails. In the future, we're going to make an exploded view rapidly here. Okay, so that's how you can set that up. And then the other thing that you would want to do probably with your scene is to add a markup layer to it. So each illustration can capture a set of markups, a 2D plane, or you can actually draw those into the 3D plane. Let's just go ahead and quickly add like a over plane arrow here or something, just to kind of demonstrate how the markups work. So you basically just pick a markup and drag that out to your scene. Place it here. We could go and change the color. I'll just leave it black for now. And when you're done, what you'll get is a scene that you've actually captured here. And this button right here, or the storyboard now shows it down here as your first illustration. Excuse me. For the second illustration, we're going to create an exploded view, and then we're going to add balloons to that. So it's a short little process here. We're going to hit escape to deselect this one, and then we're going to go and create our exploded view. So under the model ribbon, we have a set of exploded view tools. We can create a new exploded view. We'll just take the default name, and we're going to start by pulling components here. And let's just go ahead and get through this. Now the explode tools for Quadraspace, we're only going to do some translations here, but you can also do rotations, scales. You can do rotation scales. Scales can be used to like compress springs, for example. Let's see here. So let me go through here piece by piece. We're just going to make a quick exploded view of this. Now, one thing I'm doing here is I'm using the arrow tools or the handles to pull these apart. There's also different types of handles that you can use. And you can actually, if you prefer, type in the value for the movement. Most people find it easier to just go through and use the handle. Pull those out. And then 2 more steps here. Pull this one up. And then the board, I don't want to go through and select each thing individually, so I'm going to bring up the model panel, and I'm just going to select it using the tree. If you'll notice, though, the tree is the same tree that you have in your CAD tool or your engineers would have in their CAD tool, which is really powerful. It gives all the organization that you need to keep these to keep the components organized into groups and assemblies. And now that I'm done with my exploded view, I'll just hit done, and we will we have now an exploded view that we can use. Now, before we go and add the callouts, we probably By default, this bill of materials comes in with all of these parts as a line item. What we really want is a bill of materials of our own. We're going to do a new parts list, and we're going to do this top level only because we want that circuit board to just be one item. So we'll do a top level only. We'll hit OK, and that generates a bill of materials that we can use. And this is going to define our balloon numbering scheme. So we have all these different numbers here, and this is going to match, and we can save this to Excel or whatever. Our bill of materials created in QuadraSpace will match what we do with our callouts here. So let's go and let's create our second illustration, and we'll call this exploded view, I guess. And you'll notice when I hit OK, we now have it created a second illustration here. And what we want to do at this point is to add our balloons. Let's get a little different orientation here. And then to add the balloons, there's a couple ways. We could auto-create from visible, and that will give me, based on that parts list, every item in that parts list row will create a balloon, and then we can just go and simply organize all of these by dragging them around. But what we're guaranteed at this point is that there's a balloon for every item in that parts list, and that's important a lot of times. You don't have to worry about whether or not the balloon, all the parts are ballooned. You're also guaranteed that the numbers match the parts list. So let's see. Let's go through and move some more of these around. And then you can adjust these by, like I'm doing here, just grabbing and dragging. You can select multiple ones at a time. It's actually, you can reposition the leader. So instead of that object, I'm just going to look at that one because that works better for me. Let's see what happened there. Reposition leader there. And let's see, about done here. The other thing we probably want to do on this scene was we're going to go with a HLR rendering instead of this HLR plus shaded. So let's go ahead and get these finalized out. Okay, so there we have a balloon scene. And the last thing I want to do is turn off the callout editing, and we're going to change our 3D view to just a simple hidden lines removed. And so now you see that we now have a balloon scene, hidden lines removed, a different render style. I'm going to hit done. And so we now have two illustrations. We have this one which we created, which has a arrow overlay, and this one, it's just a ballooning of our exploded view. Now you could go through and generate any number of illustrations, and they will populate the storyboard bucket down here, which is used for grouping them. And once you have generated your illustrations, the next step would be to publish those. So to publish, you can simply go to the Publish ribbon here. In this case, you would either pick raster or vector, because we're just making images. Let's just do raster. And then this goes into a preview mode here. You can tell it's set to publish all the storyboard, the current storyboard, every illustration in it will be published. We're choosing raster. We can type in the size. So let's say we want 800 by 600 raster images. And then here, this tab is telling us what we're going to create when we hit the Publish Now button. So it's going to give us a little XML file that'll define the order of these. And then it's going to create this illustration and this one. And the preview here shows us that, with this overview, when we probably want to adjust our sizing so that we get everything. Then we can preview again. And when we're satisfied with what we're going to get, we can hit Publish Now, and it will generate all the images. Now, in this case, we only have two, but quite often these storyboards get filled with 20 to 50 illustrations, and they're batch published using the Publish Now capability there. So that's the first part of the demonstration, just a quick showing you how that you can organize into illustrations and storyboards, and then how those can be published to raster images. The next thing I'm going to do is create an animation. Along the way, though, we're going to learn a lot of tools that can be used to make it very easy to actually create images if that's what you're after as well. And we're actually going to highlight a thing called smart template technology. So we're going to automatically create a storyboard from our exploded view. And I think let's go ahead and do that. We have an exploded view. The first thing we want to do when we do this automation process is we want to set up our view because that view is going to be repeated. It's going to act as a template, if you will, for the smart template publishing. So let's just let's make sure that our selection color is good. Let's actually pick a little different, brighter color maybe for selection. Excuse me. Let's I think everything else is pretty good. In the orientation, let's get one of the exact ones. Let's take a straight up isometric there. So the next step then is we're going to actually default as the storyboard we're looking at right now down here at the bottom. This is the one that we captured manually. We're going to do this storyboard wizard, and we're going to use the exploded view to define what to put into that storyboard. And then we pick the exploded view 1. That's the exploded view we captured earlier. We're going to make an assembly process. So we're going to reverse the steps in that exploded view. We're going to select the parts as they're assembled. So this will automate a lot of the manual work you would do to set up these kind of views. What we're going to end up with is a step-by-step process that builds upon each other to build this entire component. And then we're going to include a view for the assembled state. And when I hit finish, you'll notice that it creates a new storyboard, and then it automatically populates that storyboard with a step-by-step sequence based on the exploded view that we created earlier. So the first illustration it automatically makes is installing the circuit board. The second one is installing that component, and on until you see that the last one, go all the way back here, is the completed last step, install the casing, and then finally you have a completed product here. So once you have a storyboard like this, I can go here and we can just play it back if you want to see the entire animation as it is right now. Let's go to the first one. And you can hit play, and it will start to go through and play this step-by-step process. But one thing that you notice is that you may want to modify these transitions since we're going to make an animation here. So there's a transition block in between each illustration on your storyboard. If I click it, it will show me just that animation. So if I keep clicking it, it repeats that, and we can modify it. So maybe we want a different transition. Accelerate to reverse is one of my favorites for assembly processes, because what it does excuse me, is it installs the component and then it moves to the new viewing position. So it works really well a lot of the time. Let's go ahead and change a lot of these to accelerate to reverses, and then we'll see how this plays out. You can also change the timing on these. You notice there's a 1 second below it. The timing can be changed, customized for each one or overall. And then the timing on pausing, on how long it's going to pause on each frame, can be set. So you can right-click this, and when it makes the animation, it defaults to it'll delay on each one to 1 second, but you can change it to 5 or enter whatever you would like. So we now, if we look at our animation, let's go back to the start, and I'm just going to hit play. This is what we can expect to see when we publish out an AVI of this process. Now, making an AVI is really just one step, one thing that you might want to do with your animations here. There's others involved in our other product pages, and I will talk about that briefly after this demo. And then there's some things you might want to do with Word, which I'll actually talk about that too. So now that we have an animation, it's either time to publish that, or some of these you may want to tweak out. Like it'd probably be better if we watched this view from a different angle. So I can just do an edit illustration on the fly here. We can orient the view to where it's maybe a little better for that step, and then hit done. And just like any illustration, you also have the ability to add an overlay layer. So for example, if I wanted to add markups, again, we can just hit edit illustration. And maybe I just want to put the call number on for the parts that we're installing. So I could do that, and maybe I want to add a note to the scene here that says you can find these in some certain bin, some specific area. So you just maybe we just put bin number 1235 or something. So whatever notes, I don't want a balloon on that, so I'll disable the balloon. And then for each scene, you can do that. We just took this one here and made it as an example. And then for the animation, how this would work is that it would play to that scene, and it would display that information, and then continue on. That information would hide from there on out. So what we, and I guess the next step then is publishing. Same kind of process here. Instead of raster or vectors here, we're just going to hit movie. And then we pick the style of the movie, the frame rate, those kind of things. And then it's going to make us an AVI. You can also do Flash, create a movie that just plays in the Flash player. And that's pretty much how you can create an animation. So we'll close out that publisher. And then the final couple of things that I'm going to do with the, I'm actually just going to talk through the Word creation one here. You can actually take and create a Word document, and that would create a Word file that included all of the images in your storyboard. But it will also use the text. So for example, this one was automatically labeled Step 9. You could change the name of that, and that would provide a title for that image. And then you can actually add metadata to these and add paragraphs of information to each step. So you could do kind of a draft. You could actually do an assembly procedure from this information. To do that, there's this metadata panel, for example, and you can type in any metadata. So for example, we want to type in a description, install the circuit board, for example. And on the next one, we'll install the I/O board, and on and on. And that would be the process for setting this up. And the result would be, if I can grab one here, I will open up a Word document that shows what the results on that would be. After you go through and document each step, you can create this very easily. Power supply. And let me share the Word document. Okay, so we've done a little bit more work on this one, but you can see the name of of your illustration is placed here in the Word document, and then any text you might type automatically gets placed into the document, and then all the images are inserted as well. So you have a very straightforward method for creating a Word document from this product as well. And then, of course, like any other regular Word document, you can go into Word and edit that as desired. And the final thing that you can do that we'll cover today with Publisher is to create a 3D PDF. And in the Publisher product, this just will create a document with an interactive view that includes one big page with a 3D view filling the entire page. You can pick that to be either landscape or portrait. Now, if you're really interested in 3D PDF publishing, I'd encourage you to really look at our sister product, the Pages 3D product, because it allows you to do not only 3D, but page design, and we'll talk about that pretty much next. I think that segues out of the publisher demo and into the closing out here. Sorry about my throat here. I have a little cold, I guess. Okay. So we should be back. Let me make sure. Yep, we're back on PowerPoint here. Now that covered a good amount of the basics of the product. There's a lot more depth to the product. We alluded to large model management, configurations. If you're, this is an important one, updates. If your design changes in engineering, then all your images and animations can be updated with the new design by simply re-importing it, and that's an advanced feature. All these advanced features, if you pay attention, we're going to have a advanced features webinar here in the next few weeks, and we'll cover all of these one at a time. Smart template, we went over some of that, but there's a lot more that can be done with smart templates on the automation side. BOM management, explode tools, merge models, all kinds of different features that add depth to the product and give you the tools you need to get illustrations and animations out. Okay, last thing I want to cover is Publisher3D. Pages is another product, and it allows you to create complete documents. Whereas Publisher, we are making illustrations and animations. This product has a patented approach that integrates page design, page layout tools, adding text, adding tables, adding images, creating multiple pages. Very useful for creating work instruction, for creating user manuals, but it's all integrated with 3D tools built in. So many of the tools that you saw for creating illustrations are the same here. You can make exploded views, you can create those illustrations, and then you use them directly in the document while you're working on it. Let's see. Next page. So here's kind of some examples. Printed manuals like this, illustrated parts list. You have an illustration on one side and your parts list table on the other. This is an interactive document as you click through it. The animations, basically the same way we made that animation for a movie, could be inserted into a document in this way. And then you hit next, 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 and it goes through, displays your text, and displays the steps of your document. Assembly instructions, work instructions, and then text list assembly instructions. Kind of a very similar process, but we're going to automatically lay out the pages for you using the smart templates instead of just making illustrations. There's another meeting. It's already set up. If you want to register for that, there's a link right there. I'll send that link to you guys too following the meeting here. And that'll be in 2 weeks, I think, from tomorrow. It's the day after Election Day if you're in the U.S. there. So that's one way to remember when it is too. And it'd be the same time, 10 o'clock on that day. This just is kind of pointing out that there's a lot of depth, all the tools that you need in order to generate communication tools from your 3D. And how do we compare with others out there? I think this is an informative chart that shows two ways. In Publisher3D, we compete very well with not only price point, but with feature set. And you can see in the graph there some of the ways that plays out. And on the Pages side of things, it's a very unique product. By combining page layout and the 3D together, you eliminate the need to use a couple tools, and you pull it all together into one, which makes managing these things long-term very much easier, and it makes the creation less frustrating. You don't have to jump between a bunch of products to get work instructions out or to get interactive documents created.